Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
All right. It is Wednesday, the 3rd of July. And I'm sitting here with Chris Potter, who is the editor of Pittsburgh City Paper, and he's just happy as can be because I got him
I have new headphones. And you know what? You sound great. I mean, your voice, it's mellifluous through these things. I don't know what people have been talking about all these years. It's dulcet.
Excuse me? What?
Dulcet, like...
Dulcet?
Like a distant music in my ear. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. How do you think, what adjectives do people use to describe my voice?
I don't know.
Strident, screeching.
Screeching. Shrill.
Shrill.
That's what they say about women who have opinions.
Women who have opinions, they're always shrill.
Yeah.
And I think strident is also up. Everybody's sending me stuff that I've then got to click on again, which is very annoying. Not really, but right now.
First world problems with Lynn Cullen. Anyway.
Okay, so, how you doing?
I'm great.
Because of your headphones?
Yeah.
Doesn't take much with you.
Yeah, no, I've learned to downscale my expectations for life in general. So yeah, these are good.
Well, it's nice to have you.
And my
here.
kid's a hoot, so we had a good morning this morning. So
oh, that's good.
Yeah.
It seems your kid's either a hoot or you're ready to toss him out the window.
Or both.
Is there anything in between?
No, it's pretty much what the agony and the ecstasy.
Living with a 2-year-old.
Yeah. So yeah. His mother was away this past weekend. Usually, mom trumps everything. He doesn't really want. If there's mom in the house, he doesn't want you around. He'll be like, "Daddy, don't come in my room." And he'll sort of wave his arm. But like this past weekend, he was like, "Yeah, Dad's all right." So now I get hugs and stuff like that. A week ago, he couldn't have cared less.
You bonded.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Yeah, we got a haircut. So
Who got a haircut?
He did. Was
that his first?
No, it was his second. But this is the first time he just went with me. So he sits in your lap and they cut his hair and everything, and it's fun. It's nice. Jesus, that sounded wholesome.
Chris Potter. Okay.
Anyway.
All right. Okay. So tomorrow's a day off.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 4th of July.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to celebrate our freedoms by not being on doing the show, I guess.
That's right.
Okay.
By shutting everybody up. Okay. Now, I wanted to actually, that's a sort of semi-serious.
Okay.
Because there's all this, it's the 150th anniversary of Gettysburg.
Yeah.
Gettysburg.
Yeah.
It's the proper pronunciation. And I'm reading a lot of stuff about how this Gettysburg was the pivotal battle to hold our union together. If not for Gettysburg, who knows? All right.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
I was doing a Ken Burns thing for you there.
And they're saying that the two sides, both sides, were fighting for their two ideas of what freedom meant. The South, freedom to
push other people around.
Freedom to have slaves, right, and to be free of the federal government.
Yes.
And, blah, blah, blah. So, but really, these two opposing ideas of freedom.
Right.
Well, I've been saying lately, quite often as a matter of fact, that I feel that the United States right now is as divided as it was then, or certainly getting close to it. Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, I would argue that it has to do with two opposing ideas of freedom. Mm-hmm. Does it not?
The freedom to push other people around and, yeah.
Well, to be more serious about it, isn't that true?
Yeah. No, I was being serious.
Oh,
I do think a lot of what you hear, is about. So, for example, just to choose an obvious one, you've got religious-minded employers who think their religious freedom, requires dictating what their employees can get.
Our idea of freedom as dictating to them and making them less free to live their religious values and
to set the terms of the employment for the people who work for them. Or to take another example, you hear a lot of sort of like martyr complex stuff right now from people who are opposed to gay marriage, who suddenly feel like they're somehow up against the wall because people aren't really interested in people are increasingly uninterested in their bigoted assumptions about what homosexuality means and what a proper definition of marriage is. And they feel oppressed by that. They feel like their religious freedom and I'm not exaggerating. You can go and you can read these statements, and they really feel like somehow this is curtailing their freedom.
Well, then, do you see any way that these two opposing views will somehow come together in some way? I do not.
Maybe if we were acted upon by some outside enemy that we
so it always takes an invasion of extraterrestrials. That would be it.
For starters, I think that would be a good first step.
Well, to see some measure of common ground. But if you think about it, we were invaded supposedly, in 9/11.
Yeah.
And
look at the era of comedy and mutual agreement it got into.
Right.
We achieved. Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, I guess my idea was wrong then.
Yeah,
we're doomed. Yep.
So how do we? We're not going to fight another civil war, are we?
I hope not, because they got all the guns. Yeah.
No, but my guess is we've got the federal government, so we've got all the guns.
Yeah, but...
No, yeah, but nothing.
Be interesting to know what percentage of people in the armed forces are Southerners, for example.
Well, this idea that the armed forces are full of Southerners and conservative Republicans is a bunch of crap, by the way.
It is not true.
It is not true, and in fact, there are more, I believe, registered Democrats in the armed forces than Republicans. You find that hard to believe, but
I'm just trying to think about it.
Reading that.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think about it. Can't remember.
Okay,
honestly.
Well, anyway, I just feel like we're heading towards something pretty scary, that there's such a divide, there's such a chasm, and I don't see us fighting a civil war, and yet I don't see us having a civil country anymore either.
So what do you think will happen?
I don't know.
Will we dissolve into little fiefdoms or something, or?
Well, that's what the right sort of wants. They do not really, it seems to me, if you take all of their problems and all their complaints, they do not really ascribe to the idea of a united states. Right.
I mean, absolutely.
Well, so...
And frankly...
Yes?
I could do without Florida.
Well, no,
I could do without Texas.
Well,
and I mean this actually kind of in a literal way. I was just reading in the past week a story. I think it was in Rolling Stone or Atlanta. I can't remember. Anyway, it was about Miami, the city of Miami, and basically, Miami's doomed. In a world of climate change, Miami is doomed, and it's doomed in a much, obviously it's a coastal city, and Florida itself lies, I think the highest point in Miami is about 12 feet above sea level.
Yeah, but New Orleans, okay. So
yes, and the other problem Miami has is you can't even building the levees or whatever won't necessarily help because Florida itself
is
limestone underneath, very porous limestone,
right.
And they're already spending billions of dollars to try and keep the salt water from pushing in hydrostatically into the fresh water, and it's just like essentially by the end of this century, I mean, people will be scuba diving to look at Miami the way they do sunken pirate ships. Like, that will be Miami. And what I'm concerned about, just as a taxpayer, is I don't want to have to bail out the state of Florida.
Literally bailing out.
And this is realistic. This is realistic because increasingly in Florida, you're finding fewer and fewer insurance companies willing to insure property.
No, so the federal government does.
So the state government does it, and then what's going to happen is the state government's going to go bankrupt, and the feds will have to back it up. I don't want to be on the hook for stupid Florida.
I'm not going to do it either. Well, I don't know. People who continue to build in places that get flooded should not be bailed out, pun intended, by the rest of us.
Yeah.
But don't just do Miami.
Oh, yeah, no.
I mean, obviously the entire seaboard. So when I look at, after Hurricane Sandy, look at what they're doing in New Jersey. And I suspect, although New York City's being a little smarter about things.
Yes.
But look what they're doing. They're just flat out, saying, screw you, Mother Nature, and they're building it right back up. Right?
Yeah, and that's the American spirit.
Stupidity.
Exactly. Just blatant to hell with it. We're not taking any crap from Mother Nature.
Obstinate stupidity.
Or, look, if you really want to open up the can of worms, let's look out west. Why is it? I read an article a few weeks ago.
The
wildfires? Property values in Arizona are back on the rise. That to me just says I just don't even know how to do it. It's not like there's going to be any more rain in the future in Arizona. It's not like there's going to be an influx of water.
They're not going to all of a sudden find water.
Right. 19 guys died in a forest fire, tragically, in just the past few days. And do you think there's going to be any discussion about whether building codes need to be changed to prevent people from building in high-risk areas like that and putting the lives of young men and women in danger?
No, because that would take political leadership and a mature population and the absence of a media that just loves trouble.
Yeah.
And stirring the pot and not doing its job.
And if you look in Florida, one of the things in this story was the story I read about Florida was just not only is Florida the most at risk. In fact, I think Miami was dubbed in all of the world the #1 city at risk for damage from the scope of damage of global climate change because there's so much money invested there. It's so low to the ground.
You mean money?
Just in terms of the scope of the loss, it's just going to be huge. But you look at Florida. And this is a state where, the governor says global climate change isn't happening. One of the scientists in this story says he was talking to, I think it was a state legislator there, a state official, and the official said, "Well, it's not going to happen because God told Noah the fire next time.
That he would never do
no more flooding."
Right.
Which I find amazing because clearly there has been flooding since then. It doesn't.
Well, there hasn't been a global flood.
Right, but you don't have to believe. Right, but you don't have to believe that the whole world will be flooded. Just Florida. Right. I mean, if you want to be a biblical literalist, God didn't say, "No, I really like Bradenton. I'm a big Pirates fan. I like getting down there. I'm not going to flood Florida." He said, "I'm not going to flood the whole planet again." Florida is still very much up for grabs, biblically speaking.
What do we do with these idiots?
I don't know.
They'll take us all down.
Which is what I'm saying. Let them.
Right. Okay. Well, I've been saying for years, I really feel that we will revisit Abraham Lincoln's presidency at some point and decide that he's fucked up.
Should have let him go, Abe. No, you can't do that.
Well, now wait. Here's the reason. I've said this for anybody who's listened to me for 25, 30 years knows it. I have said the Civil War, when history is written, long from now, will be looked at as a large part of a larger battle.
Yeah.
Which the Union does not win.
Oh, right.
The fact of the matter is even after you do.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, fine. We preserve the Union. Look at it. and pretty much it still holds that those Confederate states are the ones that if I could lop off a bunch of states and have them float away and not have to build a fence, they love fences, build a big electrified fence, razor wire on top, all of that, it'd be pretty much the Mason-Dixon line.
You'd rule out Maryland?
Listen, Look at these stats.
Granted, that does get us rid of the Ravens.
Oh, I give up. All right, so I am not going to have a serious
I'm sorry.
conversation.
Okay, wait, let me put on my face. Yes, Lynn.
Oh, shut up. Okay,
Well, but what about the whole freeing the slaves thing? That was a good outcome of the Civil War.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Okay. So that part.
That was good.
Yeah.
But why so many
setting
people?
the slaves aside.
I mean, we're looking at Gettysburg right now. All of those people who died. What? So that we could have Mitch McConnell screwing things up? So we could have Texas? So we could have Georgia, Mississippi, Arkansas? Give me a break.
I feel that way sometimes myself.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, speaking of idiots, and and Gettysburg, which puts us in Pennsylvania.
It does.
Daryl Metcalfe.
Yes, I was hoping you'd say so.
You know, you think he can't top himself.
Oh, I never think.
Daryl Metcalfe, ladies and gentlemen. Has he said anything since he became sort of a laughingstock nationally because of this latest utterance? He hasn't.
Oh, the thing about which utterance? Because there's a couple.
Oh, you mean you don't even know?
No, I know which. There's a couple.
Wait, we got a caller.
Okay.
Go ahead, caller.
Hey, Lynn.
Yes.
What's up?
Hi, George.
George from Chris.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Good, man.
Could you put some powder on your forehead? The reflection is getting really extreme.
It is shiny a little.
Makeup. Makeup.
I buffed it this morning. I guess that's probably it.
Don't buff it. You need to powder it.
I use a little chamois cloth, like a bowling ball.
Yeah,
or whatever.
it's like over the whole hemisphere.
George,
I'm a light
that's
unto
not
the
very-
nations,
That is
George.
not nice.
What?
What?
Production value. Production value. Okay. Anyway, I will get my comment in here. Lynn, you're totally wrong again.
Boy, you're just dishing it out this morning, George.
That's right. I've had 3 cups of coffee and I'm rolling.
All right, go ahead, George.
Okay. Lincoln was correct. Okay. If we hadn't fought the Civil War then, which was pushed on the United States, incidentally, okay, they went through a legislative withdrawal from the Congress, and then they instigated armed force against Fort Sumter.
Yeah.
That's clear, okay?
Yeah.
Incidentally, they could do that again, I think, but that's not the subject of what I'm saying. If that war hadn't been fought then, we would have probably fought it between then and now. Because think about it. If the Confederate States of America had sustained itself, say we had a truce instead of a capitulation, then we would have had a border of a slave nation, and they would have put up, they would have built their armed forces to keep it like that. And I think eventually there would have been warfare between the two sides, because remember, the big issue that pushed them was slaves escaping from the states and traveling north. In the case where the CSA would be established, they'd be coming over the border, and we'd have border skirmishes, which would eventually lead to war again. That's my proposition.
All right, fine.
It's
I mean, I'm not being
counterfactual
totally
history.
literal here. I am just saying.
When are you ever? Whimsical, but not literal.
Whimsical.
Yes, right.
What I am saying, and I dare you to disagree, that this bloody battle to retain these godforsaken yahoos in our union is problematic, to say the least, and continues to be. And if you look at our Congress, it's been overtaken by these people. And I mean, you can't even national elections, you have to kowtow to their stupidity and ignorance and bigotry. And I'm sick and tired of them. And the CSA wouldn't have lasted long. They did not have manufacturing. The entire world was getting rid of slavery. They would have been a pariah nation.
Yeah, but they would have been an aggressive one to contain that culture to the death.
Fine.
I think it would have. They would have built up industry as needed, which they were already doing, and it would have been fueled by more slavery and extension into the West. Okay? And I think it would eventually led to a war. And it would have been worse. Maybe.
Fine. What do we? Okay. So look. Let's cut to the present tense. Okay? Look at what we got now.
Okay.
Right?
Well, let me respond now. Okay, because you're being very literal. What we have now is completely natural. Tell me any nation that is not in that does not evolve from to polarization. All the nations do that to some extent, and it rises and falls with the times. Come on, you know history.
Yes.
Right now, we may view it as being very bad, and it is very bad.
It is paralysis.
But it changes with the times. It changes with the times.
Something has to change it. There has to be what would change it. Brain transplants for all these idiots? How do you change the fact
it's already
that they're
changing.
making America stupid?
Here it is. Here's the change. Have you seen the reports on Texas lately about the change in demographics?
Yeah.
And that the Democrats are regaining.
The
Democrats have been out of office in Texas for like 30, 40 years.
Right.
They're coming back. That's the change you see. If it can be demographics, it can be old age and death. It can be
that's
it can be education.
Okay, so we need to get more of the brown people over the borders, and more of these old white people need to die.
It's complex.
And
I think it's changing demographics. It's education. It's modernization. It's accepting the world. It's accepting changing laws for minorities and gays and everything like that. Those are all the complex things that evolve that and change that.
Yes.
So I think it's completely normal and natural. We're just at a time where it's kind of extreme, but it's already changing. It's already changing. Oh, one thing I wanted to comment on.
Yes, and if it's something cosmetic, forget it.
It's not cosmetic. No, it's serious. It's serious. And I'm surprised Hollywood hasn't. We could have a second Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we're into a Cold War. We're in what they call it a culture war between red and blue, north and south. That's still going on. But remember, the slide into the Civil War was very structured. It happened in the legislature. It happened in the Congress first, where the southern states got upset with the rulings on slavery and returning slaves and other issues like that they disagree with. And then they withdrew. And
in my dreams, they'll withdraw.
What's that?
In my dreams, they'll withdraw.
Oh, yeah, I agree. But it's a nightmare. It would be a nightmare, too. Secession
Take their
would not
little
work.
white sheets and point
Here's
at
the reason it would
and
not
go
work.
home.
The southern states and the western states have the biggest military bases.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Florida, Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Texas, California have all the big bases.
Yeah.
And they would get the biggest assets, okay? Yeah. And the reason they're down there is not because they're sunny, it's because the weather is good for flying and practice warfare and everything.
Of course.
So, but we could have, they're talking about secession in Texas and in Alaska. They are bringing, the states are acting, the red states are acting very strongly and militantly to get their way as opposed to the U.S. Congress. This is exactly what was going on before the Civil War.
Yes. Well, then I rest my goddamn case.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Thank you for your literacy.
Certainly.
That's very well. I thought that was a very well argued case, George made.
Well, of course. Why are we taking me so literally?
I don't know. Are we?
In the end, he seemed to make my case.
Yes, to some extent.
That they're sort of marching inexorably to the same kind of we got another caller.
Maybe we should take
doing?
Oh, hey, fine.
What's up?
Yeah, I'm going to run something to you. What you think of it. That'll never happen, but this is my theory on how the United States should be run. I think, now you can't do it now, but all the utilities should be run by the government.
Yes.
The school system, which already are. I don't like the free enterprise or privatization. Anytime you get free enterprise, the greed takes over, and it cost you more.
Who is this, Trotsky? What is
And I'm a socialist, more or less, and I live in the United States. But I really do. I think you would have cheaper prices on a lot of that stuff. But when you got these greedy bastards running these companies, like the utilities and oil companies, they're going to screw you every which way they can.
Have you noticed that?
Yes, well, we know that. I'm just saying, and if the government had some kind of pricing control on that and was just doing it for the tax money, it would be a lot cheaper. Now you say that socialists don't work in this country. Well, that's because corruption and greed took over.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, capitalism runs on greed.
That's why I say I don't like the capitalism system. I never did.
Nope.
Never will.
Me either.
Okay.
Have a good day.
All right.
See, I got ahead of him on that.
Man, you hate America. Should we do a break and then we can talk about Daryl Metcalfe? I'm just watching the clock. I'm trying to help.
I know. I was watching the clock when George was still in mid-flight, and we were all ready.
He's getting into footnotes.
All right. I think we will get off this topic because it is just sort of fanciful. On the other hand, at base, I have
I understand.
great contempt
I understand.
for my fellow Americans in large part. I'm sorry. Can't help it. Okay. We're taking a break.
Back in a minute.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Pick up the all-new Pittsburgh City Paper now. Still the #1 source for weekend fun in the Burgh. Go online now at pghcitypaper.com to vote in the 2013 Best of Pittsburgh Readers Pool and type in the promo code CPKWTIX for your chance to win Kennywood tickets. Vote now before it's too late. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com.
Yeah, salad on Saturday, fruit on Friday, throw a ball Thursday. Water Wednesday, touch your toes Tuesday, let's move Monday, sparkles next Sunday.
60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov. A message from USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Oh, God almighty.
Jeez.
Okay, I just wanted to say to Bill that, no, you are not dieting.
I probably lost a little weight, though.
Have you?
Yeah, probably a little. Not intentionally.
It just fell off?
Yeah.
Maybe you're ill?
No, it's because of the kid. That's all. Wasting 30 pounds of toddler.
Well, yeah, I found myself that I was in good shape. I had, like, really good upper body strength when you have a kid to drag around. Okay,
Daryl Metcalfe, did we want to talk?
well, listen, I wanted to talk about, here's his quote when the only openly gay legislator.
Not true. There are two. There's that Republican guy, too.
Oh, far out. 2 out of 100 million, because that's about how many people in our legislature are paying these exorbitant
253,
700,000, that's what I thought.
Or 700,000, somewhere in that range.
Somewhere. And after DOMA went down, this guy wanted to stand up and mark the date for the record in the Pennsylvania legislature. And he was prevented from speaking by a rule, which is unanimous consent, meaning that one person in the chamber can refuse to allow another member to speak. That's unbelievable. Anyway, later when he was asked why he did this, since it was Daryl Metcalfe, of course, who refused to let this faggot speak, he said this, quote, I did not believe that as a member of that body that I should allow someone to make comments such as he was preparing to make, that ultimately were just open rebellion against what the Word of God has said. God has said, and just open rebellion against God's law.
Wow. Man of principle. So...
Now, there is a move to have Metcalfe censored.
Yeah, it won't happen.
And it won't happen.
Right.
But this guy was able to be, the gay guy was silenced.
Yes.
Was he in any way, the House in no way apologized?
No. I mean, unanimous consent it's been around for a while, and I don't think this is the first time this sort of thing has happened. And incidentally, Daryl Metcalfe was probably not the only person.
There was one other.
There was supposedly, he's the one who said, if you want to use a name, if you're looking, because the Democrats wanted to know who is it who's stopping us, and Sam Smith, the Speaker of the House, would not tell them who it was who actually said it. So Daryl Metcalfe said, if you want a name, use mine, because Daryl Metcalfe welcomes your outrage. He gets off on this stuff, and the fact that liberals like us get upset at him, he loves that. Like that's his whole. He's a troll. He is the troll of the Pennsylvania legislature. I'll also say too that Daryl Metcalfe, by his own definition, is also an open rebellion against God, because some of his policy prescriptions run afoul of the plain language in the Bible. For example, there is no greater scourge on immigrants, on immigrants than Daryl Metcalfe in the state legislature. This is the guy who every time, you go read your Old Testament.
And God says,
do not oppress a stranger, because you were strangers.
Yes. You were strangers yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. So the next time Daryl Metcalfe comes up with one of his boneheaded, hate-mongering legislative things targeting immigrants, it would be nice if somebody could just shut him down, because he is rebelling against God. I concede nothing to this man, not even his understanding of biblical scripture.
Tell me again what section of our wonderful area that he represents, so that I can again just sort of boycott the entire area. Is it Cranberry?
It is Cranberry. The hard thing, the tough thing is what are you going to boycott? Like, what does that mean? Driving to the next Turnpike Plaza to get a Burger King, like to get a double Whopper? like what does that really entail?
Well, having driven through it to get to the Turnpike, I do acknowledge that I feel extraordinary anger as I go through that real estate. I do. I look out my windows and I think, you're idiots! You're idiots! I do. Yeah. I do.
Years back, this is a sort of a weird thing that happened. Years back, I got a call from somebody up
Why
there.
would anyone live out there? And I want to say, if you're living out there and you find Daryl Metcalfe an outrage, offensive, then get out of there. Why would you want to live around those people? Yeah. I don't understand why people live in places where they're surrounded by bigoted ignoramuses. I don't understand.
But this is to get back to our previous topic. This is the interesting thing. So we want to get rid of the South,
right?
But then we also don't want to go to the North Hills.
That's right.
So then you consider all those rural areas of the state. Really, what are we leaving ourselves with here, Lynn? That's the questions. The cities, but that's the problem.
What do you mean that's the problem?
Well, you're not going to get very far just being little islands and cities. Where are we going to grow the food?
In the high rise.
Vertical farming.
Well, yes, don't laugh at me.
No, I like it.
I like it. We don't need those yahoos. And we'll be vegans or vegetarians because we don't need cows and steers and all that stuff. It's bad for our health. Yep. We'll let all of them eat meat and, fat and be stupid and homeschool their children and get stupider and stupider and stupider. And
Yes! I would like to subscribe to your newsletter.
Thank you. You think I'm kidding?
No, I don't. But I sometimes feel this way myself, and then I realize we're all children of God together. We all have to Or you can just move to Canada, Lynn, if that's what you want to do.
No, there's idiots up there too. They're just everywhere.
I think at the end of the day, this is exactly the problem. This is why people end up living behind compounds and stuff like that. You realize, right?
I was riding the bus yesterday.
Oh, no. Here we go.
And there were these two very fat young women across from me. And they were wearing, short shorts and horrible T-shirts. And then one of them spoke to the other. And she had this amazing Irish brogue.
Really?
And the other spoke to her, and she clearly was Irish, too.
Huh.
And then this hugely fat woman sitting next to me, who was a Yinzer,
Yeah.
said,
Speak English?
yeah, right. You from Ireland? North or south? And see, north and south.
Oh, Northern Ireland, yeah.
They said north, and I was dumbfounded because while I recognized the large woman sitting next to me as a fellow American, I was under the impression that Europeans.
We're not like that.
Yeah.
Well, they're not all like French people smoking those.
No, but those girls could have passed for Yinzers in 2 seconds flat.
Well, I hope this taught you a valuable lesson about stereotyping.
Yes, well, it did. And they were, oh my God, they were fanning themselves the whole way. Oh, they couldn't take the heat.
And that just makes you hotter doing that.
Does it?
Yeah. Yeah, because you're exerting yourself to fan the thing.
No, but it helps your sweat. Right. What the hell is happening to this show? Is it?
I don't know. You just came out of the gate like really sort of misanthropic today.
I did.
Why
is that?
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. This is just like the effect of July 4th on you. Because this is the one holiday a year where we get together as Americans.
Oh, bull.
And say, Jesus, we're a bunch of dumb.
So one day a year when we get together as Americans, say, USA, USA.
Well, that and Republican national conventions.
Oh, God.
Now I'm doing it on purpose.
You know how some days you can roll with it and some days you can't? This must be one of those. Is one of my days when I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
Did you see the other thing Metcalfe did, by the way? This is why I wasn't sure which one you were going to say.
Now, what else did he do?
So the Department of Public Welfare, the state, they wanted to change their name.
Oh, yes, I do.
So there was, because there's a feeling that the word welfare has certain connotations. So they wanted to change it to, I think it was the Department of Human Services, which is blandly inoffensive, I guess. Well, Daryl Metcalfe was among the conservative Republicans who didn't want to change the name because he likes the stigma. He thinks there should be a stigma attached to getting welfare. And what he said was, and this is what he said. It was something like, there should be something. You should not be proud of living off the fruit of your neighbor's labor. And I thought, Daryl Metcalfe, my taxes pay your salary. You're living off the fruit of my labor, and I don't see any indication that you feel any shame about that or really anything else.
It's incapable of shame.
It's amazing.
Incapable of shame.
He is this, but again, the problem with that guy is he eats this up.
Okay, well then don't say it.
Yeah, I know. I just don't know what
Someone
to do.
might tell him that we're talking about.
No, he knows. He knows.
No, my contempt is for the people who elect him.
Well, that's the problem. So that's the question. Somebody's got to do, and I don't know enough about the political situation up there, to know whether there's a candidate who could win, who would be any, what are you going to do? Vote for Smith. He's less batshit insane than Daryl Metcalfe. You know what I mean? We're obviously not going to get, fighting Bob La Follette up there. I mean, so who yeah, whatever. So who are we going to get? Who do you run?
Okay, so in other words, you have to patronize the voters there.
Yes.
And the voters there are obviously a bunch of bigoted jerks. So that's why I say avoid Cranberry. And if you're there, well, screw them too.
And what did you?
They hung up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Russ sends us a quote from our honorable governor. And this, I thought of this because of what you said about Metcalfe.
Yeah.
Here, at some point, apparently, our governor said, quote, one of the core functions of government is to help those who do not have the resources to help themselves. Now, coming from a Republican, that is pretty amazing. I, however, want to talk about Corbett and want to ask you just how ineffectual a governor is this.
Yes.
He has, get this, he's a Republican governor with a Republican legislature. He was not able to get not even one of his major legislative programs through the legislature. It makes Barack Obama, who's often said to be, clueless about dealing with Congress, makes him look like a Machiavellian genius in comparison. What the hell?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things going on there, and I'm not, I'm not steeped in the Harrisburg scene, but from what I hear and read, and
still saying,
and what I and kind of what I know from that situation, I mean, there's a couple things going on. One is Tom Corbett is not and has never been a great retail politician. He's not great on the campaign trail, and he's not great at doing the kind of backslapping and deal making that you need to do to get stuff done in state government. He's also not good, and this is sort of, to me, the weird thing about it. Every year he goes around and he boasts, "We got our budget done on time."
Who gives a damn?
People care. Nobody cares about that.
No.
And what he's doing, but he puts such an emphasis on, and the problem is that by doing that, he's actually taking away like one of the real tools that a governor has, which is using the. I mean, this is what Rendell, love him or hate him, Rendell got a lot of stuff done, and Rendell, remember, for much of his tenure as governor, was working with a Republican House and a Republican Senate, and yet even though he was an opposing party, he got more done because he understood where the pressure points were.
Right.
And so Corbett doesn't get that. I mean, so I think that's a big part of it. Is he just doesn't know how the game is played because he didn't come up through politics. He didn't come up through the legislature. He didn't really come up through the executive branch. He came up through the Attorney General's office, which is a position where you don't. In fact, the whole point is not to compromise, right? I mean, that's a virtue. So he's never had that. He's not been steeped in that. And I think the other thing too is we've got guys like Daryl Metcalfe on the one hand. You've got people in his own party
dealing with a Republican
who are dysfunctional.
legislature and Republicans right now can't govern.
Yeah, and
they were never great at it, but they literally now cannot govern. They refuse to govern.
Yes.
So when you have Republican all they do. What I was reading about what North Carolina was up about just yesterday or something. They were passing the Republicans there, because they, of course, control it, were passing a bill to make certain that Sharia law would never be used in North Carolina. Like, this is important. And tacked onto that bill, they had another measure that would essentially shut down every abortion provider in the state. This is what Republicans do when they have power.
Right.
And what is with people who continue to put them in? If there's any sense that government is necessary somehow, some ways, sometime.
Right.
What is...
Yeah. Right. I mean, the other thing that's, of course, going on in North Carolina and other states is now that the Supreme Court has opened up the door,
they cannot wait.
They can't, which is so funny because the whole rationale of that argument was, oh, this is all stuff that's about a historic South that doesn't exist anymore. Da 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 da.
No,
and so the minute they open the floodgates, the South just goes back to acting in exactly the kind of way that made people pass the Voting Rights Act in the first place.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg had the great line, about the umbrella.
Yeah.
Getting rid of the Voting Rights Act because it essentially was functioning properly, is like saying during a rainstorm, well, I'm not getting wet, I don't need this umbrella. Yeah. She said it better than that. But oh, God. And here, Richard says, as Paula Dean has demonstrated, the Civil War hasn't ended in the South. When people talk about the Civil War, I say, you mean the conservatives versus the liberals? The country is just as divided as it was 150 years ago.
I blame talk radio for that.
Everyone should try to take a weekend trip to Gettysburg. It's really worth. I'm sure that's true.
Have you never gone?
No.
Really?
I think it would just kill me. It's so.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Yeah.
God. Oh, Ray wants to talk about the fat Northern Irish.
That's because they are actually English. Well said, Ray. Speaking of regional animosities.
Oh, dear Lord. Oh, dear Lord. And we got this one. I was talking yesterday. I was in an airplane, and the clouds, all these weather systems and all this rain. When you're flying right on top of those amazing cumulus clouds, it was the most glorious cloudscape, most glorious natural beauty. I wanted so desperately to be able to.
Yeah, you can't do it though.
You can't
take you put a frame around something.
And
like
I just
that,
couldn't believe that everybody is sitting there, or not looking.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I feel the same way on the busway. Wow.
Oh, and on another flight this weekend, I was looking happily out the window, but I was not in control of the shade.
Yeah.
And I was looking out and I'm marveling at, everything. I just marvel at it. And the jerk sitting in the next all of a sudden goes, pfft.
Oh.
What? It's no big deal to be 33,000 feet in the air and being able to look down at how humans have configured the land and how the crops are growing and looking at that's not of interest anymore. Oh, seen it, been there, done that.
Right.
Anyway, this is from somebody who wrote this on an airplane, on a jet.
Okay.
Lynn, I downloaded the Monday show so I could listen and en route to
Yogyakarta?
Yogyakarta?
About to reveal my ignorance of...
Once we got to cruising altitude, I turned your podcast on, and you were speaking of clouds. At exactly the same time, I was looking out the window. Very cool. By the way, I'm now a millionaire. I am carrying 2.5 million Indonesian rupiah.
It's probably about $12. That's how we guess. I think that's funny.
And then he says, I'll be in Hanoi in 3 weeks and Pittsburgh in August, then Dubai in September to start a new gig. Cheers, Bree. That's his name. In the skies over Southeast Asia.
Wow.
Sent on his Android.
Yeah. I wonder if somebody will download this show, and at the very moment you talk about fat people, they'll see one.
Well,
once again, God's creation just unfolding it with Lynn Cullen narrating it in your ear.
The odds of that happening are much better. That's pretty. Oh, man.
Can I do that thing you hate when I do it?
No, just do the whole thing. You like to take over. Go ahead, do it.
I think it's time for a break.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen live after this.
Hey, Billy, want to go to the state fair?
Yeah!
Well, you can't.
Huh?
Well, you see, Billy, when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have done with it. But now your parents are becoming energy efficient. They could save hundreds of dollars a year and take you to the fair next year.
I want to go now.
Oh, I know you do. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. Sign up for our weekly newsletter to hear about new deals first. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. bergbargains.com.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okay.
All right.
We're back. What did I want?
Russell.
What's with your paper today? It's
see, it's the
there's like you couldn't come up with any cover stuff.
Oh boy, Lisa's very proud of that.
I actually do like it.
That's the equality sign, you terrible person.
Like the color?
I'm supposed to tell that that's an equality sign?
Obviously.
Yeah. It just looked like you couldn't think of anything to do. Would you care to...
Mike emails us to say, subject line, no offense. I'm looking at two fat people now. Let's face it, Lynn. We had that coming.
I was going to say that is absolutely not true. But yes, in fact, I am technically overweight.
No offense taken, Mike.
But not obese.
Yeah, we're not morbidly.
We're not obese.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You're overweight? Yeah, you're a little overweight. I'm a little overweight. She's a little overweight. We're all a little overweight.
We're Americans.
Hey, we're Americans, right? Give me a break.
That's what tomorrow's all about, Mike.
Yeah. You stuff your face tomorrow, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Why do people like Mike hate Americans?
I don't know.
He probably thinks we're all stupid and should secede or something.
Oh, God.
I just love that. Hey,
it was well done. It was good of you to do it.
This must be
Well, he was saying, how do you defeat Metcalfe? And he was saying he runs unopposed. He's saying he never. No one ever even runs.
He has had
him.
some token opposition, I think, at least in the Republican primaries a couple times, and it's never really amounted to much. I've talked to a person or two, a Democrat up in that area who had sort of been kicking around a run and hasn't done it. I don't know. It's how do you run and win up there without being
Daryl Metcalfe?
That's the problem.
Well, no. Then what you have to do is you carpet bomb the entire area.
Destroy Cranberry in order to save it. Yeah,
That's right. That's right. We destroyed it in order to save it. That's what we do. I know, because we don't want to destroy the interchange. A neutron bomb. I believe that's the one that kills all the people but doesn't.
What is happening to this show? You've out-quinned Jim Quinn. You need a break. I'm really glad you're taking a few days off.
I do, definitely, yes. Here, this is from Tom Sokolowski, who will not be here tomorrow because he'll be
celebrating his country.
And what country is that?
Yeah, I don't know. Tom's a citizen of the world, as far as I know.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, he informs us that Yogyakarta is in the north of Indonesia.
Oh.
I know Bree lives in Singapore.
So it's different from Jakarta.
And he says it's an amazing place with extraordinary artists.
Oh, geez, now I feel dumb.
Huh. Yeah, I never even heard
fat.
of it.
Thanks a lot for writing in, everybody.
And Tom says, if the South does rise again, I nominate Paula Deen for its president, since she is both fat and bigoted.
Oh, Lordy.
I want to say right now, before I go away on vacation, because I won't be here next week, I want to apologize to everybody I offended, which is a sizable percentage of the population. I must be. I'm in a bad mood. I am.
It's weird, because when I came in, you seemed fine. Maybe it was is it me? Did I?
You were overly chipper.
Yeah,
that sort of guy.
That's probably what did it.
Yeah, it was like.
If I'd been down, you and I exist in a sort of yin yang thing.
Yeah, we
That's
do.
Right.
We do have that going, which is
nice.
Cool. So, I don't want to talk about any of this crap anymore.
Good.
Okay. So, what else? Can
I tell you what's in this week's issue?
Oh, there's
Since you brought it up.
idea. And I wanted to also ask you about Luke Ravenstahl. Anything happening there?
I don't know.
Nothing.
Boom!
I don't know what.
I don't think there's anything happening there.
Okay. I mean,
it's just, I think everybody's just sort of waiting for him to either be indicted or
go away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I would just point out for folks, the last time I was on, we were in the throes of victory because, of course, of the DOMA and the Proposition 8 ruling, and we have a piece out this week, which the cover refers to somewhat.
Way too subtle for me.
Yeah. Well, the younger generation will get it. My target demo.
It's like social media.
It's like a social media thing. Yeah. Yeah. It's the equality sign. People, people have been using it as their Facebook profile shot and things like that. Anyway, so we have a piece like, what does all that really mean for Pennsylvania? As you know, Lynn, I felt bad about this because we were caught up in the joy of the moment, and frankly, I said a thing or two last week that just plain wasn't true, and it was the fact of the matter is, although there are some implications for couples who are married but don't live in the state that recognizes gay marriage, while there are some implications, it's not at all clear how many there are, and they are clearly going to be much more limited than I led your audience to believe.
Right. So it's not.
I feel bad for that, and in fact, I'll tell you what. By the end of Wednesday. by the time I'd really sort of processed it through and read more of the legal
were
reasoning, I was actually sort of more depressed than I was when I got up that morning. Because it really calls attention to, before it was like, okay, if you lived in New York, like it was nice that you lived in a state that recognized your marriage. I mean, it's nice, I'm not trying to downplay that or whatever. But you could live in Pennsylvania and not be materially worse off, than you were in New York. It was a sort of,
but that's nice, not true.
But that's not true now. And in fact, and just speaking, and this is something, this story doesn't get into this, but it's something I've sort of been thinking about. I mean, as an employer, if I'm trying to hire the very best people I can.
Yeah, you're not going to get them if there's a
I am now at a very serious competitive disadvantage with a paper, say, in New York State or in Maryland or any of these other places that recognize same-sex marriage. Because we are talking now about, in those places, Social Security benefits, the taxability of health benefits for your partner. These are benefits that amount to thousands of dollars in a year. And to be competitive with somebody like that, I'd have to up my salary offer thousands of dollars a year. And it's not so easy.
So aren't we going to start seeing in every state cases brought like the cases that, topple all of this through the judiciary?
You would think, and this to me was the most interesting thing. If you go back, and of course, in fairness to myself, we were reading these opinions on the fly in the studio.
Right.
So, you go back and you read, for example, what John Roberts wrote. And John Roberts' take on this was very interesting. And what he stressed over and over in his dissent was, the one thing I want to make very clear, this was a ruling based on Federalist principles, states' rights. And you can see he's setting it up for when those suits do come. And he's going to say, hey, this was supposed to be about states' rights. Well, it's the right of the state of Pennsylvania or whatever state happens to be, the ground zero for the next lawsuit, to say they don't want to recognize this. And by the same logic you used before, we're going to use that logic now because it's all about pitching to Anthony Kennedy.
Well, okay.
And he's going to use Kennedy's own logic this time around against
But so this is the disunited states. We're going to be these, and people will. Why live in Pennsylvania?
Yeah. It's a good question.
Okay.
But I think we should say, again, Maryland, which you would wall off behind that Mason-Dixon line.
Well, this is what... Okay.
I'm just saying, Lynn, the truth is more complicated than yours.
Yeah, I know, it always is. Ray writes, subject, the mood you're in.
Uh-oh. Dun, dun.
Lynn, when I'm feeling grumpy, I am reminded of William Burroughs. People often ask me if I have any words of advice for young people. Well, here are a few simple admonitions for young and old. Why does this have to do?
I think it's he highlighted the.
If you're doing business with a religious son of a bitch, get it in writing. His word isn't worth shit. Not with the good Lord telling him how to fuck you on the deal. That sounds like what the president of Ohio State said about the priest at Notre Dame.
Yes. Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot what he said, but
yeah, I don't remember the exact nuance, but kind of. Yeah. And hey, speaking of which, I don't want to offend Ray, but isn't that an amazing thing that came out about Dolan and the latest disclosures from
Milwaukee?
Yeah, from the Catholic Church and everything. And,
Milwaukee.
And let's take $5 million and put it in a trust fund, in a cemetery fund, so nobody can touch it. And
when we go bankrupt,
yeah,
I think that's smart management.
It's smart management, but it's also terrible.
That's why he's in New York.
Yeah, there are a lot of things about that face I respect, but I cannot be lectured to by those guys about I know
men in dresses with lace. I'm sorry, and red shoes. I'm sorry.
That's right, because the Catholics were the one portion of the audience we hadn't insulted on today's show yet. And we were winding down to our last 2 minutes. I was worried.
Yeah, and Ray's a good Catholic. I'm sorry, Ray. Thank you for your...
Yes.
Beware of whores who say they don't want money. The hell they don't. What they mean is they want more money.
Gosh, what made that William Burroughs so cynical?
Was he living in America at the time?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Was he?
Yeah,
he didn't.
When he wrote this, I have no idea.
I don't know. He didn't decamp to.
I don't think so.
Europe or something? Europe? Okay, guys, I really do want to apologize. I'm dyspeptic. Literally.
Yes.
You know, I've had medical issues.
I did not know that.
No, and I am, in fact, dyspeptic.
Really?
I believe.
So when that gets
I think one of the reasons
cleared
I'm
up, is this
grumpy
going to
is
be a different kind of show?
No, I think I've been put on... I think one of the reasons I'm mad is I was telling Jess when I came in, I've been put on a diet of essentially, I need somebody to chew my food for me and then spit it in my mouth. And you see if that makes you happy.
Yeah. I don't even want to ask.
And not only that, I have a hairball. Thinks I'm kidding.
Oh gosh, well folks, I'm sorry we're out of time.
Okay, and we are out of time, and I'll tell you the real diagnosis was I do have a hairball and I'm full of shit. That's
This is one for the books, this show, I gotta say.
No, look it up. A hairball. It's called a Bezoar. B-Z-O-A-R. Yeah. It's usually people who eat their hair, but some people make them without hair.
Wow.
Made purely of organic material. An organic Bezoar. Huh?
Cat hair.
I don't know if it's cat hair. They didn't really dissect it. But
Did they remove it?
No, it's still... The little sucker's still in there. It's like a monster in my gut.
Yeah. What's that like, walking around with that?
I'm telling you, you don't feel well.
Yeah.
And you have to have, like a mama bird, somebody eat your food and spit it in your mouth.
All right. Well, the fireworks came early.
I want you all to have a wonderful 4th of July weekend.
Yep.
And a good week. And I'll be back on the 15th.
All right.
Jet lagged and crabby.
Well, you're halfway there then.
I am. I'm sorry. Love you. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.